Okay, now the stage is yours.
Okay, great. Let me share the screen. All right. Okay, so probably I'll give an introduction about ChainIDE, and then we can talk about the specific part we have done for Meena. Okay, so first of all, ChainIDE is in the category of a developer platform, and we are one of the largest Web3 developer platforms. So what we are is we allow these different chains to use this IDE, the web-based IDE, to develop NFTs, GameFis, DeFis, or any kind of Web3 projects. Um, in the past we have experience building some of these apps, and when we build these apps we finally realized there was some problems in the developer tooling which was not straightforward for beginner developers or even intermediate developers to get used to and to understand in order to build these amazing web3 applications. And that's when we started building ChainID. And finally, with ChainID, we also did some master classes, some boot camps. We also, do these boot camps every year with multiple of these partners. We right now, I mean, this is some of the old data, but we have over 15 chains that are integrated. We are used in a lot of countries, so we even do workshops in India. We also do workshops in the European area, in the Middle East as well. ChainID is also officially recommended on the Ethereum website. So on the Learn by Coding page, ChainID is also listed there alongside other platforms like Remix. This is in terms of the multi-chain integration. And we, before Mina, we also integrated these other chains like Aptos, Ethereum. So it doesn't mean just EVM, but also non-EVM chains. So what ChainID is, it's a developer platform. So we have this cloud-based ID where people can get used to their friendly interface like VS Code and start building these applications. So we have multi-chain support. It's completely cloud-powered, so it's not running locally. It's not doing local computations. It's a full-stack developer platform. That means you can not only work on the front-end side or the client side, but also work on the backend side, deploy as many services as you want. And then we have these sandbox environments, which in other word are like Bash terminals. Then it's extensible and modular, so we have support for plugins, we have support for templates as well, and then there's some advanced features which I can talk about later on. So you can just start developing applications from the browser and start coding in seconds. So it's just to make the whole development process easier for someone new who's getting started with Web3, or who's also used to Web3. As an example, people often visit documentations and just try to replicate that locally on the system. But sometimes it doesn't work. It may be due to some dependency issues or some libraries or something like that, and ChainID is there to solve that problem. So you can set up a new environment directly, and it'll be done in seconds. So it doesn't waste your time as well. Um, ChainID is a one-stop dApp development platform. So as I mentioned, it's a full stack. So we have front end. We can work on these contracts. We can also work on the back end and the DevOps. So by DevOps, I also mean Git integration. Um, so sandbox are basically the one-click environment setup. So you have access to the whole virtual machine that is offered. So that means you can install any kind of extra tooling also if you'd like. That also works on your local. If you would like to replicate that, that can also be done. It's extensible and modular. So we have built extensions for different companies, and one of the extensions is also for Mina, which I'll showcase in some time. Then we have this DevOps part, so we can do direct CI/CD. There's alerts, logging. We also integrate some security features as well, and then there's a dashboard to make everything easier. So I'll skip the advanced features, and then one of the features we have is called Code Sage, which is a AI-based coding assistant. So we haven't, like, this was not covered in the proposal for Mina, but basically what it is, and it'll work like for Mina as well, but it's not optimized for OpenJS, but it's basically a plugin which is using Open AI API, and it'll just it'll have the whole scope of the code, and you can ask it any query. So it's basically like a chat GPT that is directly integrated inside ChainID, that enhances the developer experience. So for example, if you're building a TypeScript, contract, so basically O1.js file, so you can directly refer to this and make like the generic enhancements. Same thing with React. So if you're building React front ends, you can directly refer to it, ask it to produce code, give code suggestions, and those kinds of things. So yeah, so basically this is a comparison with Remix. This is some other customization we did for the partners. So now let me actually move on to the proposal to just showcase everyone, just remind everyone what we plan to build earlier as well. So these are the problems that we are solving. Like in terms of Mina, so basically we're kind of right now we're already in the mainnet part, but we kind of wanted a platform where people who are new to Mina don't face challenges, often when they're getting started. And there's a client-side bottleneck when it comes to browser-based compilation. Like people don't have these highly advanced machines to run all the competitions that are required for Mina. And there's a lack of like a rich template libraries. For example, people who want to get started, which kind of tutorial should they open? How do they easily access it? So just to make everything easier, we're trying to solve that problem. And finally, there's a slow testnet block creation for development cycle. And people also raised a problem where Mina docs were difficult to execute due to the environment setup. So now trying to solve that problem, we actually are providing this solution on top of ChainID. So let me go scroll here. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, so basically this was the scope. So in the standard scope, which is the one that is approved, we have these two things. So first is the ID. So we are providing ID, and I'll showcase that in a bit. And we have built a Mina Essentials plugin that basically integrates this and provides features specific to Mina. In the milestone 2, we will show Mina Lightnet plugin, but I'll talk a little bit about one issue that we faced, probably end of the demo. And then we have built templates and tutorials library to make the whole process easier for any kind of a developer. Okay, so now let's probably get started. So I actually have a recording from the team, and then I'll also share with everyone a live staging link for people to test and leave their feedback. So let me just play the recording from directly from our developer. Okay, so while this is playing, I can guide everyone. So okay, so basically, ChainID is this whole thing that I'm showing is still deployed already. So we have support for sign in with GitHub, so people can directly do that. And we have created a new section here at the bottom, as you can see, for Mina. And here we can find all the templates that there are. So that we found basically on the web directly. So we are currently on the Hello World just to showcase this example. And so what this is this is a cloud-based ID. So you can basically edit TypeScript or any kind of files here. And as an example, you can see we have code highlighting and all these features. And I mentioned we have a AI-based code, codes suggestion tool, or which is called as Code Sage. So it just directly works with the TypeScript files, obviously because we're using OpenAI API. So you can actually open your file here and directly ask it to comment or advise on code issues and all that. So that directly works here. We have direct integration with GitHub, so you can actually create your own repository, or you can actually use and connect one of your existing repositories. And similar to how we do on VS Code, you can just add your changes and do a commit and a push. So just add the message, and it directly connects with GitHub. So yeah, when we open the repository, we can see all the latest changes here. Yep. So this is also to enhance the open source contribution in the society, in the Web3 world. And yeah, so this is basically how the UI looks. I think it will look very familiar to any other VS Code like system. We have this Mina Essentials plugin, which lets you compile directly, these files here. So sorry, these projects here. And right now we're showing how we can, when we run this compilation, how that works. And at the bottom, you can also see the sandbox, which is basically like a terminal. So you can access the whole virtual machine here. And yeah, so this is showcase of the README, and we have opened the documentation from here. Yeah, so all these templates that we have directly come with the README. So you can basically follow through and just do as you would on your local machine, just to do it on the web. Yeah, so since this is also running on Sandbox, basically the commands are same, so you don't need to invent something new or figure out a new problem. And then when we're trying to do deployment, we have provided all these step by step buttons, like for example config, deploy, and here like you can enter the API URL to deploy as we would locally as well. Yeah, so we just copy that from here. Yeah. So once we have that, we can just follow through and just enter that and try to deploy this. Yeah. So this is to show, how a general project can be developed for Mina on ChainIDE. And yeah, so once we have that, we can actually look at the transaction here.
Rahul, uh, I think someone shared the window is not shared, so we are still in the presentation. But
Oh, oh, my bad. So I'll probably, sorry about that. Let me just, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'll probably just do a quick
yeah, from the start maybe. Thanks.
sorry. Yeah. So this is the ChainIDE, web version. This is the whole platform, and this is a recording directly from the developer. Um, so we will, share the staging URL. We already shared with the Mina team, but we'll also share with the community. And this interface, as I mentioned, is very familiar to any other VS Code like systems. We have this window where people can develop these files like TypeScript files or any kind of React projects or front end or back end projects here. And Code Sage is the AI-based code assistant. So since we are using OpenAI APIs, it directly works with TypeScript files as well. It's not really optimized for O1.js, but it would just give you general optimization ideas and resolve issues. So we have all that integrated and available here. We also have integrated GitHub, like I mentioned. I'll fast forward this a little bit. So similar to how we would do on VS Code, we can actually directly do it over here as well. So you can just stage the changes directly integrated, commit and push to GitHub. And once you do that, you can, if you check, it just directly works. So the overall idea is that the flow is very simple and probably 100% same as you would do locally, but it's just happening on the virtual machine. So just to keep users used to their existing flows. And once we do that, we can actually compile these different projects here. So we can just select the project and just do a compilation. And at the bottom, we can see the logs as well, since we're using virtual machine. So we can access that virtual machine. We have the full sudo access to that. So yeah, so let me fast forward this a little bit. Yeah. So what is happening is we can just showcase that this is a README for this project, and at the bottom you can see it's running the common commands we have for compiling and running projects. Yeah, so then we can do deployment and interaction. So we can just select the file again, like select which project, just do configure and just finally do deploy. So let me just forward this. We'll just copy the API. Yeah. Yeah. So once we do that, it should just give us the URL for the transaction. And then if we see that, we can see the project is directly working. So it's very similar to how we would do it locally. And we have not integrated mainnet because we're waiting for some more testing right now. Yeah. So yeah. So once we do that, we can do the deployment, and then we can actually do interaction as well. So we'll show that once this is done. So we can select which alias, then we can do the building of the project. It takes some time. We just yeah. So once this is sent to the network, we can see the project is actually deployed right now. And then we can go back to the IDE and continue to do some testing here. So basically we can just select the path, and then we can select which script. So we can, if we just create all the scripts here in that folder, it'll directly understand which file to use, and we can just select that. Yep. So it's just running those commands here right now, and we can see what the state is. So as we can see, it is able to run all these testing part as well directly from the browser. Yeah. And now, we'll show the. So this was just running one of the Hello World projects, but we'd like to also show the full stack capabilities of the platform. So not just the contract side, but also running the front end side and seeing how that actually works for all end to end workflow. So here, we can just again do compilation of the project, and it's running those same commands. And after that, we also have a UI here. So we'll see how that UI works. Just forward this a little bit. Yeah. So once you are in the UI, could be anything. Right now, this is the same one that is offered on the website. So it's a Next.js project, same as what everyone is used to on Mina. And we can basically do npm install, basically the same things we do on the local system, but it's directly working on the cloud here. And once we do that, it is able to also run the front end. So let me show that. Yeah. So once the front end is running here, like through Next.js, we can map the URL. So it's running on a specific port. So we have an option to map different ports, and we can then map it and directly open it in the browser. So thus making like a seamless experience for developers. So yeah, so this is ready now. Yeah. Yeah, so as you can see, we have the port manager here. This option, we can select the sandbox, select the protocol, just enter the port, and then it directly runs on the browser. Yeah, so directly from the sandbox, directly from the virtual machine, it can run on the browser. And using this kind of a workflow, we can not just run a front end, but we can also run any kind of other applications, like maybe we are running some other backend service, like for example a backend built on Node.js on top of this project. We can also do that. Yeah. So let me forward that. So yeah, so once we have that, now directly we can access the web application how we would do normally. So we have example of doing a transaction on Aura wallet. So once we compile this ZK app, we can just directly interact, sorry, with the application. So we can do send transaction or get latest state as an example. Yeah. So this is just to showcase, how it would run on the browser. And yeah, so just forward this part. Yeah. So in a nutshell, let me also show the live URL here. Yeah. So basically, this is the beta version that we have for our project. And as you can see, we have Meena here. So basically, I'd like everyone to spend some time, just do some testing here. We have these different projects. Just do some testing. Let us know what you think about the overall flow, and if there's any updates that we can make. I'd like to point out one thing that we also mentioned earlier as part of the release was about the Lightnet. So Lightnet is also something that we have integrated, but we also faced one issue that we opened on Discord. We're still exploring options. We haven't got a way to fix that yet, but we were not able to access the GraphQL directly. So once we do that, then we'll also be able to integrate the Lightnet that we have built, Lightnet plugin directly in ChainIDE, similar to how we have the Mina Essentials plugin. So we'll be able to also show the Lightnet plugin. So that was the only problem we had, but we're already working on that, and we'd like to get everyone's feedback on this kind of a workflow for building ZK apps on ChainIDE. Yeah, so I'd say that is the conclusion of our presentation. Let me see if feel free to ask any questions. I'd be happy to answer that. Let me see if there's anything. Okay, yeah. So feel free to ask any questions that you might have for our project, and I can answer those right now. But thank you for listening through, and if not, I'll stop sharing.
Thanks, Rahul. Do we have any questions from the crowd? I don't see it. Yeah, I think we don't have. Thanks again for the
Yeah,
presentation.
thank you so much.
So I'll start a new recording and then we can